Dolby has been in the entertainment industry since 50 years, more than 50 years. And Dolby Atmos is kind of like the tool that we have originally invented for cinema.
Actually, a cinema and a car, how much they have in common when it comes to controlling the experience.
What is the process to actually get those speakers in a car and the constraints you have to work with when you talk with OEMs?
It's much more than just drilling a few holes and screwing the speakers in and do some calibration.
Why do you see as important to have so many brands for your business?
The more brands we have on a different segment, because these are not all high-end brands. These all brands are different.
And they have a different story.
They have a different story.
How do they differentiate and how do they explain their product? These things are getting more important at the end of the day. It's like the story to the consumer, right? Why does that matter? And if you can play with music, and play music games, or if you have interactive games or interactive storytelling where they can engage and interact with the content, there's a lot happening. And I think that is probably going to be also a glimpse of the future, right? That's what the young generation demands, but I think it's also very practical considerations.
There's a lot of work, a lot of engineering to actually make technology invisible.
Do you think that the narrative about car audio has to evolve to take all of this into account? Or at the end of the day, as you're saying, Greg, it's all about creating the best experience and the technology is here just to make it happen? Behind every dashboard, every ADAS feature, every HMI, every EV battery lies a human story. I'm Stéphane Lagrelle, founder of the Storytelling Tribe, and you are listening to Automotive Storytelling, a podcast where we uncover the narratives that drive automotive innovation. In an industry that is impacting the lives of so many people around the world, it's the power of storytelling that ultimately connects technology to humans. Let me tell you a personal story. It's February 2006, exactly 20 years ago, and I'm entering a massive hall in the north of Paris. As a pioneer employee at the time, I'm excited to attend my very first Paris Tuning Show, an event dedicated to the personalization of cars, fun to the extreme, car bodywork with massive wings, lights below the chassis, flashy paintings. But the number one reason so many people come to the show is car audio. Back then, it was relatively easy to change the audio components of your car. People were spending fortunes in speakers, amplifiers, DVD players, and subwoofers. 20 years later, while the car audio aftermarket business massively decreased, the broader global car audio market keeps growing, with a forecast of $20 billion plus by 2034, from $11 billion in 2025, driven by consumer demand and new technologies. More than 70% of consumers desire a premium audio system in their next vehicle, according to the S&P Global Mobility Survey, which proves the importance of it. So today, I'm extremely excited to welcome not one, but two experts in this field from two companies who have a major impact on this business, Andreas Ehret from Dolby and Greg Sikora from Harman Automotive. Andreas, Greg, bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup.
Thanks, Stefan.
All right, so let me first introduce you both briefly. Andreas Ehret, you serve as the head of automotive business at Dolby, where you are responsible for setting global strategies to bring immersive experiences like Dolby Atmos to the automotive market. Your career began at Fraunhofer, working alongside the inventors of the MP3 audio coding, before your transition into high-level engineering and business roles at Dolby. Mm-hmm. Andreas, you're an engineer, but also a guitarist, a music lover, and a firm believer that incredible audio can happen in a car. And obviously, we'll talk about this a lot.
Okay.
Greg Sikora, you are the Executive Director for Global Acoustic Systems Engineering at Harman Automotive, where you lead a worldwide team of engineers dedicated to iconic brands such as JBL, Harman Kardon, Bowers & Wilkins, and many more. Known as the master chef of car audio, your path began in a house filled with musicians to a position where you design cars that sublime music. I had the chance to work with you and always admire your constant focus in pushing the boundaries of in-car audio. Together, Andreas and Greg, you represent a strategic powerhouse partnership between Dolby and Harman, collaborating to transform modern vehicles into immersive entertainment hubs that blend precision engineering with deep emotional storytelling. And you know how storytelling is close to my heart. So Andreas, Greg, thank you so much for joining Automotive Storytelling.
Yeah, thanks so much, Stefan. It's a real pleasure. As Greg and our paths have crossed quite a bit, I'm really happy again, thanks for the invitation. And I'm really excited for, the time ahead of us and have this conversation with you and Greg. So
awesome. And Andreas, well, let me start with you with a simple question, but maybe the answer might be complicated, is what is Dolby Atmos?
Okay, beautiful. All right, well, I guess everyone probably has heard the name Dolby before, and then Dolby Atmos as an extension, as a clarification of what we're talking about. Dolby has been in the entertainment industry since 50 years, more than 50 years, always trying to set, let's say the next level of how can we use technology and understanding sight and sound in order to heighten the emotional impact that those technologies have. So how to give storytellers, the creatives, better tools and a bigger canvas to showcase their art. And Dolby Atmos is kind of like the tool that we have originally invented for cinema, where innovation in cinema was like, it's always more speakers and you can always have more watts and whatever. But we realized that always just adding more speakers is not really a great solution. And we were doing a deeper thinking around how can we change the paradigm and what else could we do? So we were, of course, from the idea of saying lifelike sound, we know, right? It's like, how do we perceive audio as humans? It is about a natural sound field that can extend from sound from anywhere and not just from certain speaker locations. It can be anywhere in space. And the fundamental paradigm shift with Dolby Atmos was to say, okay, now let's create a format that is able to give the creative an idea to mix in space rather than mix to a dedicated speaker setup. And that's the fundamental, we call this also object audio in sometimes, right? We're saying the sound source is whatever it might be, right? It might be a bird, it might be a helicopter, it might be a musical instrument. The creative, the mixer can take a decision where to place those audio sources or audio objects in space. And then the rest, sort of like from a master file to transmission that and bringing it back into devices, all of that is the Dolby Atmos ecosystem, I would say. But that's the fundamental change in how we treat or think about audio. So Dolby Atmos, in short, Dolby Atmos is a experience enabled by technology that has a paradigm shift to think about mixing to space, three-dimensional space instead of speakers.
Wonderful. And so this is why this applies to cars as well, right? Because car is a space, actually a very close space. And the same way you could have in a cinema, you could have the helicopter you were talking about in a given space, you could have this in a car. So this is why you guys decided to get into the automotive, right?
Absolutely. Of course, with this paradigm shift in cinema, we've also thought about, and that was 2012, I think, when we did the first movie and the first screens with Dolby Atmos. And since then, we brought it to all other places that you can think of. And automotive has just struck us as exactly as you say, right? It is a space, it is a room where this technology perfectly applies, because you have speakers all around you. You want to fill this space with the best possible impression you can get. And I think we can go into the details of that and how that works. But essentially exactly that. It is also a growth opportunity for us, to be clear. And of course, we have been applying Dolby Atmos not only to, let's say, movies, but it can, of course, be applied to all other content formats that you can think of, audio-only formats like music, like podcasts, storytelling, weather forecasts, and of course, with automotive, audio or music is probably the still dominant entertainment use case in cars. So that's was the natural extension to say Dolby Atmos music in cars. That is an opportunity with an amazing experience advantage, and that's what we brought to the market.
And so even though it's less about speakers, but it's more about spaces, it's still, you need to have speakers in a car, right, Greg? And so this is where you come into play. And I guess that for many people who are not necessarily involved into the production of cars, they do not necessarily see the complexity of bringing more and more speakers, because Atmos requires more speakers than just the stereo speakers we used to have 20 or 25 years ago. So, Greg, can you explain us a little bit what is the process to actually get those speakers in a car, and the constraints you have to work with when you talk with OEMs?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Maybe I'll just connect to Andreas, what you said, that made me think how actually a cinema and a car, how much they have in common when it comes to controlling the experience. In a cinema, you have a setup that is known, it's standardized, and then you can build an experience on, it's predictable. You know that if you make it right, if the cinema, if it's certified, will deliver exactly the experience that was intended. The same is in the car. We control the experience by knowing the components, knowing the full chain, and knowing where the speakers are, then making a tuning for that. And we know that this will translate almost exact within, let's say, the physical boundaries from car to car. Something you cannot do in a consumer space like a room, because you still rely on people placing the speakers in the reasonable places, or headphones where you have to cover, something from high-end headphones to very simple, some earbuds. So it's there is a commonality actually between I feel between cinema and a car for controlling the experience. But how do we get it in the car? Well, that's it's much more than just drilling a few holes and screwing the speakers in and do some calibration.
Because I guess you need to be involved very early in the process of the car design.
It's early
right?
involvement. It's early involvement. The OEM has an idea for the system. They know which car this will be applied for, what is the target car. Ideally, we need to be involved at even before body in white of the car is decided for, because some loudspeakers, some loud speakers like subwoofers, you have to consider the installation of the speakers already at the body in white stage. So very early. That's basically the first.
So are we saying like 3 years before production, 4 years?
3 years, sometimes 5 years.
Wow.
Well, these timelines tend to compress, particularly in China. Like the thought process is the same. It's still early involvement. It's just in China, the early involvement might mean 18 months. It's still the same. It's just the timeline is compressed. But, where we need to be involved for the best results is the same. So
And for you,
I would
Andreas,
Mhm.
you need to be involved at the same time because I guess that if an OEM wants to have Atmos, then the implications in terms of speaker location is pretty big, right?
Actually, not that much. I would say,
Okay.
to Greg's point, of course, those cycles are shortening, but they're also not starting from scratch, right? I think there's a fairly good understanding in the industry, meanwhile, to say, oh, what to do to get the basics right, and yes, it usually starts with the subwoofer because sometimes that's related to how the frame's constructed and how do you fit in the frame construction. But to your question, Stefan, I think Atmos in that sense is fairly flexible that we can adapt to the different speaker locations. Of course, it gets more tricky the larger the car cabin is, because then you have to also watch out for I don't want to. I will need to be able to fill energy in all places. Let's say, yeah. So you don't want to create holes. You want to have a nice distribution of speakers so you can steer the right energy. But for Atmos as such, I don't think there's that much extra necessary, or maybe nothing at all, as opposed to getting the basic quality right. And I think the basic quality, I think Greg is much better to to explain that, because that's
we
the
rely
Harman
on each
core
other, right?
activity, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we can in that sense come in a little later. I think that's totally fine. And when Harman is involved, I can rely on the basics are in a really good spot. And when Harman is involved, I know we can put Atmos on top in almost
Because
everything they do.
Because for you, Greg, the constraints that you are working with, I guess that there is the size of the cabin, as we have been talking about. I guess that there is also the cost, because you're not going to put a 5,000 speaker set in a entry level car, I guess. So maybe the quality of the doors or the size of the doors. Can you tell us what are the biggest constraints you have to work with?
Yeah, maybe one step back, because what is the most important when we talk with OEM is what is the experience? What do they want from this system? And which of our brands, because each of our brands has a different target for experience. That's not only hardware, that's also the software, the calibration, and different places in the market. So first, we really need to have a common understanding. What do we want to achieve? Are we going for a pure high-end system that perhaps doesn't have many additional features, but just is the sort of audiophile grade, or we go for a system that is more fun and has features, it has some interaction possibilities and so on. So let's assume that these basics are done. There's obviously a lot of work from the marketing point of view. Which brand fits to which car on which level. That's what you mentioned. The effect of that discussion is the cost discussion, the price. But the first point is the right fit between the brand, between the OEM. Because at the end, it also goes to the storytelling. It cannot be, you cannot have a brand that has nothing to do with the OEM identity. There has to be a match. Luckily, we have great guys in marketing that are taking care of that.
Yeah, I know a few.
You know a few, yeah.
and actually, coming to brands, because that's a topic that is really common to you guys. Maybe asking you the question to you, Greg, first. Harman has acquired very recently Sound United, and you have new brands that have joined the portfolio that was already pretty large. So you used to have already JBL, AKG, Harman Kardon, Infinity, and many more. And with the acquisition, you got Denon, Marantz, and Bowers and Wilkins, which is a little bit the jewel of them. Can you explain to our audience why do you see as important to have so many brands for your business?
Well, one simple reason would be that the more brands we have on a different segment, because these are not all high-end brands. These all brands are different.
And they have a different story.
they have a different story. You take the Bowers and Wilkins and Bang & Olufsen, both there's high expectation for the sound quality, but it's achieved through a different ways. If you compare a consumer Bowers and Wilkins product and Bang & Olufsen product, it's very different beast, different purpose. One is more lifestyle, one is more towards the authenticity of the sound. And the more of these brands we have, as I mentioned before, it's about the brand and OEM fit, the higher probability we'll have that will have a wider coverage of fits to different OEMs. So at the end, it's a larger business opportunity.
And for you, it's really making sure that each brand has its own territory, right? And its own way to communicate, both from a, let's say, a sound standpoint, but also from a design standpoint, and so on, right?
It's sound, it's design, it's the features that you have in that to augment the experience. So it's not only sound itself. It's the whole. I will keep on repeating this word. It's the whole experience. It's audio visual. It's even tactile. Touch, the material that you make grills from. If it's aluminum like Bang & Olufsen, it might be leather. All of that matters. It's not only sound. If we would be focused only purely on sound, we would have systems with probably on sound on one seat, let's say. So basically, great sound, no friends kind of scenario. And nothing else matters, then we would have, maybe 7 great speakers, simple, powerful amplifier, and grills that would look like something you used your noodles in the kitchen to, the sieve, right? Because this is best for sound. But we know that the same with the car. Why do we have different exterior designs with the car? It's a message of the it's the emotion. So the sound system, it's called the sound system. The sound experience, the sound quality is the basic that needs to be given. We have to get it right every time. But the story doesn't end there. We have to have the all senses engaged and have an identity that people know, oh, I know this is a JBL system. And I feel it, I see it, I hear it.
One quick thing before we continue. If you are new here, I'm Stéphane Lagraelle, founder of the Storytelling Tribe. After 25 years in global automotive marketing, Harman, Samsung, TomTom, Pioneer, I built my business around one truth. The best technology doesn't always win. The best story does. We help Tier 1 suppliers and automotive tech companies turn engineering complexity into narratives that win deals. If that's your word, let's connect on LinkedIn. Now, back to it. So coming back to brands for you, Andreas, something that has been very interesting the last few years, and I guess that this is thanks to the work of you and your team, but the OEM cabin has been very protected from other brands for many years, right? So there was the OEM brand, and that was pretty much it. There was the often the name on the speakers, but what I have seen is that the industry is changing, and now the industry is welcoming collaborations and other brands like NVIDIA, OpenAI with ChatGPT, and Dolby Atmos. How do you see this evolution, and how do you benefit from this evolution in accepting more brands?
Yeah, okay. Maybe a good way to start is to contrast a little bit against not against, versus, that's a much better word, to contrast versus the brands that that Greg is describing. The Dolby Atmos brand is more related to the content format, I would say, right? And the experience we're talking about. From a consumer perspective, it's sound all around you. So it's explained, or as I explained earlier, right? It's the idea of saying we want to create a 3-dimensional, authentic lifelike experience where you're sitting in the middle, of the sound, and not like in stereo case from a front experience with two speakers. That's the key difference. And from a brand perspective, that means this content experience and the association with the content, and that the content comes in this format. That's what our brand means.
But I think it's very complementary, right? Because
exactly.
There is, if we take a Bang & Olufsen system, Bang & Olufsen is going to communicate, lot of values in terms of sound quality and craftsmanship and stuff like this. And the Dolby Atmos is going to augment it by the communicating more on the 3D experience, so to speak, yes. Right?
Exactly. It's complementary, exactly. And I think from a positioning point of view, of course, it makes sense to start, or we've started with that, or we saw adoption more in the premium and high end, but we're more and more also coming to lifelike, or lifestyle brands. So for example, we've done it with APG and the Mahindra, mm-hmm. And really, hey, here's a cost down, more affordable, but also the brand here, the audio brand, means something because it's related to the lifestyle of the car.
Studio
it's quality. Related to the desire of the consumers trying to have fun, right, and engage and say, oh, this is important. So you want to have a audio speaker brand, if you will, right, that tells you what the audio system's capable of. But Dolby Atmos brings the additional, let's say, engagement or deeper engagement with the content and the fun of it, right? So that's that.
Would you say that the story that Dolby Atmos tells is different in the car audio space than it is in the audio spaces you cover, or it's one story?
No, it's the same story, right?
Yeah.
And you see our Dolby Atmos brand. I mean, you see it in the cinema, but also in the home theater. There's lots of products out there and different implementations. There's speaker implementations. There is sound bars, which is the different form factor. There's smart speakers. So you can also continue that idea of saying, Dolby Atmos means an experience, and the idea of a spatial audio format, and the idea of sitting in the middle of it, that also translates to other device factors. And then to your other question, Stefan, on the car OEMs are more open. Well, I guess that's the industry trend for the car OEMs also to say, how do they differentiate and how do they explain their product? And I think they're all reinventing themselves, right? Say, oh, I'm not differentiating on horsepower anymore, but maybe it's CPU power, so NVIDIA, or maybe it's the in-car cabin experience where Dolby Atmos comes in, or a car audio subsystem brand like the Harman brands come in, because these things are getting more important at the end of the day. It's like, how do consumers make use of their cars? What's important to them? And I think that's maybe also the trend. That's why we're talking today, right? It's what is the story to the consumer, right? Why does that matter? And as, let's say, the future of cars means that the in-car cabin experience you will have with more driver assist systems, with the emergence of self-driving cars, you have more time to actually do more in the car than just getting to A to B. A nice drive is one thing, but you can also engage more, right? And that means that in-car cabin experiences with entertainment or work, these things are just getting more important, right? And that's also why audio in cars, or getting putting more attention to it, right, actually matters, and that's why we see this traction.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the future in a moment, but I'd like to come back to one point, which was you just talked about consumers, and the question is for you both, right? But maybe Greg, you can start. We see that new generations of car buyers emerge, right? And we have now digital natives who have experienced music very differently from what I have as a Gen X, or even compared to boomers. So what does that change? Those new generations, what do they change on your approach? Maybe Greg, if you want to start.
I mean, there are some. Maybe I'll start with things that do not change. Then it's a matter of consumption, because you can build a case. Well, in the past, perhaps people had the technology was not so advanced, but there were bigger speakers at home. So actually, perhaps you were getting better sound quality at that time. And right now, it's on the go. Small speakers, which changes the way how we consume. But the reality is our need for high quality, high fidelity, whether it's audio or vision, doesn't change, because that's how the high fidelity started. It's about recreating the reality. So the closer to reality you are, whatever reality is, I mean, that's all. When the music production, that's a whole different podcast, I would say, we can spend on. But this is a high fidelity that applies to all the senses in a way. So if I take an average person, and doesn't matter from which generation, that never experienced high fidelity sound, and I will put him in the car or any environment where high fidelity is available, I guarantee you will never want to go back. That's the effect, and I believe that's one of the important points why there is a growth in car audio and the premium car audio, because once you experience it, you're not going back. If you ever had in automotive, if you ever bought a premium system, I can tell you, next time you're configuring a car, that's going to be the first option you will pick, and you might sacrifice the engine size, because you're literally using it all the time, whether audiobooks or music, and then you understand the difference. It's about showing people, making it more available. Obviously, we won't be able to convince people if you have to pay several $1,000s for that upgrade. So the task is actually I see also Dolby here very important, how to bring that experience on a lower cost systems, cost optimized system with less speakers, but still maintain that experience. And I think Dolby is doing a great job of having different rendering options. That is, you don't always have to have height speakers, surround speakers, and so on. You can get less, and how to squeeze that performance. Obviously, there will be a difference, but how to make this delta, the difference less for that. So I think to answer your question, there will be always, once people experience it, once we make it available for the wider population, how they consume the sound before it will change once they get something great. But that's just one part of the story, just the sound quality. But the other part of the story is we talked about is more and more the younger generation, they expect, well, the car is like your phone. So you want to see upgrades in your car. You want to have different features in your audio system. You want your car to handle more sources. You expect to have Atmos, at some point. I have a car, I will not mention the brand, but I'm very disappointed that the CEO of this company still haven't decided to put Atmos in the sound system.
But we'll talk about...
Andreas, you know what I'm talking about. But I would love to have it. I would love to have the possibilities. I think the expectation from the younger generation, the expectation for sound quality doesn't change. It's the expectation that the systems are evolving, that you can get more out of them, more feature, more experiences, and so on.
Yeah, I think I want to build on top of that a little bit, because you're absolutely right. My user testimonial is my daughter and my son, right? And what happens when I watch them? I think they're a representation here. I think the point that, Greg, you're making, once they experience good sound, they're not going back. So absolutely, yeah. And your other point around expectation of a mobile phone. We talked about that with cars quite a bit. I think it's accessibility. Yeah, they're used to have access to their content and to their private or personal choices. They just want to do that at the fingertip wherever they are. Yeah, is it on the go, on the phone, at home? They want to control the playlist. They want to control what is it that I'm playing. So when my daughter goes with me, she's in control of the playlist. Yeah, and she has her content, and I think that's I guess the lesson also for the OEMs, right? They need to be able to provide that accessibility. So it's content sources, as you say, and then I think their approach otherwise is maybe a bit more playful and a bit more interactive. Yeah. So I think back in the days we talked about a lot of lean back, and I think that still exists, but they're maybe a little bit more impatient, right? They want to. They want to do their own stuff, right? Yeah, and I think in this sense, like, they want to share. They want to also share the moment. They want to share playlists. They want to also maybe engage with the content. Yeah, so if you can have apps that let you create user-generated content, for example, right? Or if you can play with music, and play music games, or if you have interactive games or interactive storytelling, where they can engage and interact with the content, then that is something we'd love to do. And I think, again, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with voice in the car, voice commands, natural conversations, language models. There's a lot happening. And I think that is probably going to be also a glimpse of the future, right? That's what the young generation demands, but I think it's also very practical considerations that you can do more. Yeah, you can personalize the content, you can create new use cases that you didn't even dream of yet. But that's the direction I think these things are going.
And do you think that the whole SDV conversation is going to help you guys? I mean, if I think about for instance, the new BMW, the neue Klasse, do you see this car enabling you guys to think about over-the-air updates?
Absolutely. That's core, right? That's core to it. Yeah, that's also, I think each car OEM has that in their strategy. Say, yes, after I want to be able to continue to create value. Yeah, software-defined vehicle means you can continue to create value, and audio, of course, is part of that, right? We will continue to create new applications, new streaming services, interactive games, casual gaming, audio games, all that kind of things. Yeah, so you will continue to add value, and that's exactly how you do it, right? You bring new apps, new applications, new content. Yeah. That's a direct tie into with SDV, of course.
And the refinement possibilities as well. You see the car with the system on the market, and you see how people respond to it. And it's at the end the perception of the sound is subjective.
Speaking of markets, you have been talking about Mahindra a few minutes ago. So India is a very different market, obviously, from Asia, from Europe, from the US. How do you see the regional cultures impacting the work you do? Who wants to answer first?
Oh. All right. I can start, but yeah, really relying on Greg to complement. Well, of course, it's a sell to question, right? In which region are you selling, right? What is important to that specific region? And absolutely, there's differences. I mean, if you contrast India, Europe, US, China, of course they have different desire, and where let's say the society is what's important. Again, the core audio quality, I think, they desire the same. Yeah. But
I have some comments about it.
Okay. Oh, all right. A little bit more boomy.
It's a classic question that I have an answer package for that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, but yeah. Again, I think there's definitely differences. It's more the use cases, but but Greg, please let me.
No, I mean this is purely on the sound quality, right? Because we talked about high fidelity. What is high fidelity? It's just bringing as much realism, and what is real for you. When you would be here in person, I hear your voice. I know you're here, and this is your voice, and that's the reality. Or I hear a grand piano in a concert hall. That's the reality. So if the system, any audio system, if it can recreate that reality, it's high fidelity. My perception of grand piano can be different from your perception from grand piano, but the system needs to be basically transparent to that. So that's kind of levels the field for regional differences. It's about individuals, but your reality is your reality. It's only in your brain. I don't know how you perceive. I don't know how you perceive colors. I have no idea, but we all agree what the red is. And if you have a screen where you expect red and you see blue, that's wrong. And that doesn't matter if you are in Japan or in Germany. The same here. The same thing is with sound. So we actually, Harman did in the past studies on that, trying to find regional differences, and there was no difference found.
Let's take the example of Toyota and JBL, right? So JBL is the premium audio partner of Toyota, and there are Toyota cars which are defined for a very specific market, European market, for instance, and there are cars that are available pretty much anywhere in the world. So for a car like this, a car that is anywhere in the world, would you say that you tune the JBL system to be a JBL system, full stop, regardless of where the car is sold? Or would you say that you tune it for Japanese audience because Toyota is Japanese? How would you approach this?
We attempt to maintain the JBL sonic signature. I mean, JBL is about high performance speakers. It's a powerful sound. I would say the differences between the systems are more related to specific cars, the limitations in the car models and the car build and so on, than a different tuning philosophy between regions. In US market, you have different models available. Pickups, for example, are quite dominant there. It's a different construction of the car, comparing to perhaps Yaris. By the way, great system. My wife has the JBL systems, and she loves it. So I think that we are trying to maintain, because the reason why Toyota wants JBL is because they want JBL. So there has to be
makes sense.
JBL sonic signature. But this is a discussion that we have with various OEMs, especially larger ones, very, very often, and we always approach it objectively. Like this is our data, this is our research, this is the brand. At the end, we need to find a solution. So we talk to each other, we experiment until everyone is happy. That's the goal.
Okay. Well, time is flying and I would have like thousands of questions to still ask you, but let's go to the last part of this podcast, which is more looking toward the future. And we've been talking a little bit about it. Andreas, you mentioned autonomous driving and the fact that experience in the car is going to change if you are not driving anymore a car, obviously. And I know that you guys have Dolby Atmos, which is more for the audio part, but you have also Dolby Vision, which is more for the visual part, I would say. So how do you see the future of cars impacting what you guys do at Dolby?
Okay. Yeah, indeed. Of course, we're trying to understand the future trends. We're trying to understand what's coming. We're trying to understand what the technology brings. And my take, beyond what I already said, of like software-defined cars, more apps, more accessibility, more usage of the voice interface, I would believe the future will be a more holistic understanding of the in-car cabin experience, where audio, screen, other actors like lights, yeah, and let's say vibration, haptics, yeah. So more things, and there's going to be more screens, right? It's not only one screen. Maybe there's a pillar-to-pillar screen, right? Or maybe so all these things together, I believe, will be defining a different in-car experience than what you're currently used to. Yeah, a more holistic experience where all these things, where the actors and the sensors will work in concert. And then what I think also a strong trend is probably this agentic AI piece, right? Where the car and the user infotainment or the UX element understands the context you're in and makes better recommendations or suggestions and gives you better choices that are suited to what you actually want to do. Yeah, gives you the right content in the right representation format. Yeah, and gives you, and also makes it easier because there's so many car functions that you have today, so many choices. We also need to reduce the complexity to actually how to access these things. Yeah. So
right.
So giving the right choice at the right point without you having to struggle with the complexity of how to interact with your system, I think that's what probably the future of the in-car experience will be need to solve for, and I believe many people are working on this. Yeah. So, and of course it touches onto an entertainment experience as a whole. Yeah. So we want to make sure. I mean, that's what we're taking care of. That we are working with those systems. Yeah. We want to make sure that, for example, Dolby Atmos as a search item or search tag is understood. Yeah, with the infotainment system. You know, that things like, hey, play me my favorite Dolby Atmos playlist on blah, 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 right? It just works. Yeah. Today it doesn't. Yeah. Act in the same way as you wish, but this should just, this should just work. Yeah.
It's fragmented today still a bit. But the topic of immersion, because in our circles when we say immersive, we think about, sound all around you, but I like to think about immersion in this more kind of psychological definition, that immersion is about you being there. And this is sound, this is vision, this is basically the whole experience you have. Like having immersive experience meaning being in a place that you want to be, whether it's music, then you are fully as a psychological state in the music, in the story, in the trying to understand what the artist wants to say, or if it's a audiovisual content there, you're in the action. So there's a lot of work, a lot of engineering to actually make technology invisible. The technology should not be in the way. It should enable the full immersion. So the only thing matters, the only story that matters is the story, is the content, it's the music message, it's the movie plot. Everything else is
everything needs to be in place.
It's not about the technology. It's not about that speaker, that algorithm. We are working the service for musicians.
For the experience, right? Exactly. But it's what I really like about what you were saying, Andreas, is about collaboration with people you were not necessarily collaborating with in the past, right? You were talking about the people who are having the lights, responsible for all the lighting in a car. I think Greg, you had a wonderful experience at CES a couple of years ago with Gentherm and the massage seats and everything that is happening on the seat part, right? So, and I guess that we could have other parts of the car that could be connected to the audio experience. So, do you think that the narrative about car audio has to evolve to take all of this into account? Or at the end of the day, as you're saying, Greg, it's all about creating the best experience and the technology is here just to make it happen?
I mean, the demands are evolving. there. As Andreas mentioned before, soon, hopefully sooner than later, we want the car will be driving itself, or there will be very little interaction. Then you will pay attention more to the content. You'll be more critical. You'll pay attention more. Then obviously you want to have, it's not only better sound quality, but more options, more interaction with the system. AI comes here. It's bridging the content with the system, so you don't see all these pieces as separate entities. It's the whole thing. So I think evolution, in some parts evolution, in some parts revolution. Depends on which. I think sound quality. This is if we take this, I think it's an evolution. Still finding traditional engineering, getting more out of less. That's always the challenge. But that part is understood. It's experience. It's hard work. A lot of skill. But we need to go beyond that. We need to go to the full audio-visual, true immersive experience. So, and on some parts, also on speed, how we deliver these features. Because as we mentioned, people get upgrades on their phones. They get apps, and now you can do over-the-air update. So people expect. So we also need to adapt our speed of developing these features. But at the same time, we can, let's increase the speed of features. Let's do 100 features a year. If you don't connect them into the universe, that the story that goes around them, which in Harman case, it's a brand. It's a story that unites all these features. Then we just have 100 features with zero context. So there's a technical work, but there is also this more strategic work needed to enable that.
Wonderful and super exciting, I have to say. If you guys have been listening my podcast, you know that there is a traditional question at the end. And the traditional question is, what is your number one storytelling advice for our audience? Andreas, you want to start?
Understand your audience. That's probably the most important. Yeah. And then be super crisp about who's your audience and tell it for that audience. And that's my number one insight. So
very, very good. Greg?
Actually, very, very much along the same lines. It's whenever you say the story, you need to make sure that it relates to your audience. Otherwise, you are just missing the point. So, if you are talking to engineers, you need to have a story that makes sense, that is exciting for them. And the same story, the same point might be completely different if you are working with the sales team, for example. So that's kind of from my daily life. So it needs to be relatable to the audience. Otherwise, it will not. It needs to be real.
Yeah, it needs to be real.
Your own. If you're faking the story or you're telling someone else's story, then might not
authenticity,
work well.
Right?
Exactly.
Authenticity. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna end with this word, authenticity, and I can only thank you, Andreas and Greg, for joining us today. Thank you so much. It was an incredible episode. I'm super happy we made it, and thank you really, really very much for your time.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Stefan. It was a pleasure, as always.
Excellent. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Automotive Storytelling. Dear listeners, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe to our podcast wherever you get them from and share it with friends and colleagues who are passionate about the future of automotive technology. Remember that behind every dashboard and every feature lies a human story, and those are the stories we are committed to uncovering here. Until next time, I'm Stéphane Lagrelle from the Storytelling Tribe. Thanks for listening.